גדל והתקדש שם רבה.
Amen.
לעולמה הדועה קירותיה וימליך מלכותיה וישמח.
Avraham and Peretz Hasid are on the island of Corfu, paying tribute to an ancestor they never even knew existed.
This is the grave of Savas Israel. He was originally buried. He died in 1944 on the island.
And these Israeli brothers are alive today, thanks to a brave Greek mother and a community who saved from the Nazis their mother Rosa, a tailor named Savas Israel, and his daughters.
Hi.
It's okay, but it's okay.
And for award-winning New York City television journalist and author Yvette Manassas Corporon, this embrace was a lifetime in the making.
My yaya and everyone on Erikusa was capable of doing this, and they did stand up collectively to save their friends.
Yvette came to Israel to celebrate and sign copies of her book, Something Beautiful Happened, being released in Hebrew.
My grandmother would tell me that she would open the door at night, the girls would come, they would leave their hiding place, they would knock on the door, and that she would let them inside, bring them in, that every day she would take food from my father's plate and his sister's plate and my grandmother's own plate.
לא ידענו שום דבר על כל מה שקרה לאמא שלי בשואה.
We didn't know anything about what happened to my mother during the war and the Holocaust. She was too traumatized to talk about it, or didn't want to make us sad. People are surprised to find out that the Jews of Greece also went through the Holocaust.
My father was around 9 or 10 at the time, and he remembers the Nazis on the island threatening, knocking on doors, pounding, going from door to door, saying, "Are you hiding Jews? If we find them, we will kill you, we will murder your entire family, and we will burn down this island."
The staff of DNA and genealogy platform MyHeritage served up a Greek vibe for the emotional event with a happy ending.
They called me the new Sherlock Holmes. I really love genealogy hands-on. I'm a genealogical detective.
For MyHeritage founder and CEO Gilad Yefet, tracking down Savas's relatives was a personal obsession.
I thought, wow, that's an amazing story. I was drawn by the challenge. Anything that is very difficult draws me even more to try to solve it.
More than 7 decades after Avraham and Peretz's mother traveled the same waters to safety in Israel, and with only first names and a search of 3,000 gravestones.
So by finding this fluke, this stroke of luck with 2 first names and guessing the Hebrew version and finding that they lived on the same address.
Yefet solved the mystery of his career. He found himself in the home of the Hasid family, who had a black and white photo of Savas Israel himself.
I told them, do you know who this person is on the wall? They said, we have no idea. This person was very dear to our mother, but we have no idea who it is. I told them, okay, sit down, I have an amazing story for you. This is Savas, your ancestor, and this is how your mother was saved.
And even more miraculous, the tireless team even tracked down 97-year-old Nino Nahoshon, who not only survived Auschwitz,
He said, this is my name. 15510.
but the Corfu native remembers Yvette's grandmother and the family of Savas like it was yesterday.
אף אחד לא יתנהג כמו המשפחה שלה. Nobody was caring like your family. You remember?
No. Nino, although he went through hell, was willing to speak of it because he understood how significant it was that we remember this story and stories like it and how important it is for history. And when I first met Nino, he told me nobody cared. No one cared about his story. No one cared about the Greek Jews of Corfu.
A story that dates back over 800 years with centuries of Greek Christians and Jews living together as friends and neighbors until the Holocaust, when most of the 2,000 Jews of Corfu and Erikusa disappeared without a trace.
Now, a few years later, I'm here, our book has been published in Hebrew, and also that the story of the Greek Jews of Corfu is being taught in the Israeli public school system, to go back to Nino and say, people do care.
Emily Francis, I-24 News. Joining us now is Yos Baruch. He's a rabbi at the Schechter Institutes and also a descendant of a Greek Jewish family. Not even just a descendant, the son of. Very happy to have you, and thank you for joining us. I could tell even just watching it, it was triggered something very emotional, a story that you could relate to, yes?
Yes, because when I see Nino, for example, I think of my grandparents and of my father, who is a Holocaust survivor. And the story of Jews surviving the Holocaust is something very close and very emotional to me. And sometimes it is less told in the Israeli Holocaust narrative, so it's...
Well, now we have now because of this, it's being introduced into the schools, which is very profound. Let's talk about the history, because, you know, we know mainly about the expulsion, the Inquisition, and the Sephardim, but the fact of the matter is that the Greek Jews came 2,000 years ago and are not even called Sephardim. Please explain.
The first testimony of Jewish existence in Greece is from 250 BC.
Wow.
They found a menorah sign on a stone in one of the islands in Delos. And the Greek-speaking Jews existed throughout the Hellenistic area, the Hellenistic space, all around the Hellenic Empire. So it's not only Greece, the area, the geographical area of Greece today, which Corfu today is part of, right? It's also Sicily, Egypt, which was also Syria, Turkey. All these areas had Greek-speaking Jews.
Very interesting, and they actually had a name. They're called Romaniot Jews, correct?
Exactly.
So
yes.
they are. So they have been there for all of these thousands of years. It's so interesting to see the close relationship, and now we kind of see why, because there may even be, you know, ancestral relationships between the Greeks and the Greek Jews.
Yes, they are very, and the Greek Jews always consider themselves Greek, because for a Greek, the language that you speak defines you. So if your language is Greek, you are Greek. And they consider themselves also Greek and also Jewish. It's like a double identity.
Very interesting. Also, you told me before, a little earlier, a story about like kind of this folklore, the story of slaves being taken as Jews even to Greece and things happening. Explain that.
Yes, there is a tale about 3 slave ships Titus sent exactly after he conquered Israel. He sent them directly to Rome, and some of them crashed. And the tale says that the Jews that fled these ships established communities in northern Greece, which is my homeland, actually.
Which is where? What is the community in northern Greece where your family comes from?
We come from Yanina and Trikala, 2 cities in the Epirus and Thessaly, which is northeast Greece. Yanina is very close to Corfu, not only physically, but also with the connections, because Corfu and Yanina both absorbed Sicilian Jews refugees who came to these 2 spots. That's why in Corfu, for example, you have 2 synagogues. You have one Romaniot and one Spanish, with more Spanish.
Like, well, even in Venice, there's a million, you know, not a million, I'm exaggerating, but so many different synagogues. And I think a lot of people don't realize is the history, even in Corfu, of the Venetian Empire, and that there were Greek schools and things that are still standing today. That was a very interesting time in Greek Jewish history as well.
Yes, and not only in Corfu, but also in Crete, for example. Crete was also under Venetian. You see that in the architecture, and that's the history. The history is amazing, because Greece was divided between the Ottoman Empire and the Venetian Empire until the Ottoman Empire took over everything.
So, and also explain a little bit more about, in the 1800s, there were a lot of Jews in Sicily. I mean, this is another thing people don't hear about, that there are a lot of Sicilians that may as well have Jewish ancestry.
From the little I know on Sicilian history, they had to deal with the same thing, Spanish Inquisition, that same process, and therefore many of them fled Sicily, but some stayed and changed their religion. As Greek Jews, for example, we know that the Greek diaspora in Egypt had about 1 million Jews 2,000 years ago. 1 million, they even had a little temple. And this, they all disappeared. We don't know what happened to them. probably assimilated.
Right.
So this is a phenomenon that we see many times in Jewish history. It is the Jewish tradition to stay in the land of Israel, but also to live outside of Israel.
Right.
So the diaspora is a Jewish tradition.
Thank you very much. This was such an insightful conversation, and please come back. It's so great to tell the story of the contribution of the Greek Jews and the heroic people in Greece that took care of their family and friends.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much.